As you can see, in this session, I will talk about research ethics and a brief introduction. The introduction actually will be very brief because the subject matter is quite vast and it contains many aspects, not only about scientific procedure, but social norms, morality, and many legal aspects as well. So the first thing, I would like to just tell you about one particular incident. In 2012, I was in Italy, and one fine morning, we heard that CERN has discovered the Higgs boson. I think many of you have heard about the Higgs boson. The journalists tend to call it the God's particle, the God particle. So the initial reaction was very positive, and we all trusted, we all believed that Higgs boson has been discovered by the CERN. The question is, why did we, the scientific community, we took this news as a fact that really the Higgs boson has been discovered? আমি একটু বাংলায় বলি যে হিগস বোসন আবিষ্কৃত হয়েছে, সার্ন ঘোষণা করলো সকালবেলায়, অ্যান্ড বাই দ্য ইভিনিং সমস্ত কমিউনিটি, সায়েন্টিফিক কমিউনিটি, তারা এটাকে সেলিব্রেট করলো যে হিগস বোসন আবিষ্কৃত হয়েছে। কেন? বিকজ ইন সায়েন্স উই আর কাইন্ড অফ স্কেপটিক, উই কোয়েশ্চেন এভরিথিং, উই কোয়েশ্চেন ইভেন আওয়ার ওন ফাইন্ডিংস. So whenever we find something announced by a lab or published in a journal, we tend to believe it. So what is the reason behind this particular approach? আমরা বিশ্বাস করি কেন? আমরা বিশ্বাস করি তার কারণ we believe because there is credibility. বিশ্বাসযোগ্যতা আছে। এবং সায়েন্টিফিক এন্ডিভারে বা যে কোনো রিসার্চে যদি এই বিশ্বাসযোগ্যতা না থাকে, if there is lack of trust, then what should we do? Let me give you another example. Think about a master's student. The supervisor is giving the student a particular project and telling the student, him or her, that you go through the literature survey and find out what you are seeing there, and try to find out research gaps, and let's devise a proper research project. এখানে basic assumption-টা কি? The basic assumption is, whatever you read in the scientific literature, you have to take it at its face value. যেটা আপনি পড়ছেন, যেটা আপনি দেখছেন, সেটাকে আপনাকে নিতে হবে। আপনি একটা পেপার পড়ে যখন দেখছেন যে সেখানে এই কথাগুলো লেখা আছে, এই কথাগুলো লেখা নেই, if you don't trust what you have just read, you cannot do anything in science. তাহলে এই যে বিশ্বাস এবং ক্রেডিবিলিটির যে ব্যাপারটা আসছে, এটা কোথা থেকে আসছে? This is a moral question. আমরা কেন বিশ্বাস করব এবং এই ক্রেডিবিলিটি কিভাবে দাঁড়ালো? And the answer to this question is in research ethics. Because in research, whether it be social research, research in different scientific disciplines, we tend to believe what they declare. And this belief, it comes from research ethics. যদি ethics না থাকতো, তাহলে আমরা বিশ্বাস করতাম না। তাহলে বিশ্বাসযোগ্যতার প্রশ্ন যেখানে, সেখানেই ethics-এর প্রশ্নটা আছে। Ethical practice যদি না থাকে, তাহলে সায়েন্টিফিক অ্যাক্টিভিটির কোনো অর্থ নাই। If we cannot trust our published sources or the statements made by the research labs, science cannot advance. তাহলে আমার মনে হয় যে এই পার্টটা সবার কাছে ক্লিয়ার যে এথিক্যাল প্র্যাকটিস ছাড়া কোনো ধরনের সায়েন্টিফিক অ্যাক্টিভিটি or more broadly speaking, any research activity, it cannot flourish. This is essential. And what is research? You can find a definition here. There are so many other definitions, but I think this encompasses almost anything. Research is something, and scientific method is something else. When these two are combined, you have scientific research. And scientific research, though there is that word scientific there, it is not limited to the scientific fields. If you do social science, if you do research in arts and culture, still you have to adopt a methodology which is termed as scientific methodology. তাহলে এই জায়গাটাও পরিষ্কার করার আছে, আমি বিজনেসে থাকতে পারি, আমি সোশ্যাল সায়েন্সে থাকতে পারি, আমি arts and culture থাকতে পারি, আমি লিটারেচারে থাকতে পারি, but whenever we do research, the methodology is pretty much the same. And whenever you adopt that methodology, it is kind of scientific research. So though the term scientific is there, it is not limited to a particular discipline of knowledge. And what is ethics? It is an English word, but the origin is from the Greek word ethos. And what does it mean? This means moral character. In the modern times, ethics is a collection of course subject dealing with moral principles. In the modern time, in fact, ethics is by itself is a large field of research, and this is a vast discipline of knowledge. In science, research ethics is more of a collection of universal practices. And as I said, the first thing this ethics gives us is that we trust in the findings, in the reports, in the statements of the scientific community or the community involved with any other kind of discipline related to knowledge. But the thing is, ethical practice, it has so many different components. If we don't understand it in its totality, then it is a very easy to go astray, and you can actually deviate from the true ethical path, and I will try to focus on those aspects. Actually, whenever I say that in our field we tend to believe what our colleagues are saying, it's true. It's true in almost 99% of the cases. But as moral aspects are very much human trait, there are limitations, and there have been many examples where these ethical practices have been violated. I'll give you some very prominent examples. Trust is broken when something like this happens. As I'm a student of physics, my focus will be in physics. Here are three particular cases. One is from Victor Ninov and John Hendrik Schon and John Cromwell Mather, and these are famous scientists. But unfortunately, they did something very unethical, and it affected the physics community greatly. I am particularly, I have a personal involvement with the findings of Heinrich Schon. He was a German scientist, and we used to call him Wonder Kid. You know, in cricket, Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar, they are kind of wonder kids. Schon was a wonder kid, and we were always speculating when will he get the Nobel Prize. But after a few years, after his superhuman contribution in physics, we started to doubt his findings. And by that time, he has published dozens of papers in Science and Nature. And he was also working in the field of superconductivity, which was my field, and at that time I was in Cambridge. I remember we had weekly group meetings, and we were discussing papers after papers produced by Schon. And actually, I was inspired, and I published one paper on Schon's idea. But later we found that all his data were fabricated, and then the rest is history. This is the Schon case is a historical event in the history of science. You can find it out. The case of Schon. There is a book which describes all those activities of shown, and the name of the book is Plastic Fantastic. So whatever he did, it was plastic, and it was fantastic, but no use in science. All those activities actually are great setbacks in scientific progress. So, if we talk about ethics, which are the components that are included in ethical practice? Actually, every step of research has ethical component, every stage. And in this country, in Bangladesh, this issue is extremely important. And I sometimes feel that before engaging any student, any faculty member, and this is not a problem only with the young researchers. This problem is very much prevalent in professional older researchers as well. So there is no senior junior distinction here. It is practiced, and unethical practice is very much rampant in Bangladesh. So ethics in where should I look? In methodology, in analysis, in results, in publication. In every step, you have to follow the ethical standard. You know, there is no respite. You have to follow it. If you want to do true research, if you want your research to be meaningful, it has to be ethical. I will start. There is the evaluation process, reviewing conflict of interest, research reporting. Everywhere there are ethical issues. And research paper is our goal. Basically what we want to do, we want to take up a project, then we want to do the necessary research. We gather the findings and we express it in writing because, you know, it has to be communicated. There is no point of doing research and keeping all the result to myself. It has to be disseminated within the field. So for that, we need to do publication, and we have to report our findings to our community. So research paper, it has certain steps for a research paper. It has a targeted audience. When I do superconductivity, I target the superconductivity community. As simple as that. When you do AI, you target the AI community. When you do chemistry, you target the chemistry community. It's not for all. And it has to go peer review, which is a very important step in publishing. And you know, publication is another very important aspect in professional researchers' life, because through these publications, reputations are created or tarnished. If you do good work, your reputation goes high. If you do substandard work, it doesn't really help. And if you do unethical research, actually your reputation goes very much down. In fact, in Western countries, the countries which are technologically advanced and advanced in research, if you do something unethical, your research career is finished. It does not happen here. But in Europe and America, if you do something unethical and if you are caught with that, you cannot enter an educational institute rest of your life. It's done, it's gone. But this doesn't happen here. Sometimes we know many things, and some of you also have the experience. Many of the publications here, I can say that ethical practices have not been followed. Anyway, so one thing we need to remember that ethics and integrity are social contracts, and it depends on the background. So the ethical issues we discuss in the subcontinent may be not those that are discussed in the Western countries, but the universal norms and practices are the same, but we focus on different aspects. At this moment, I believe we are facing ethical crisis in research here. So what is the main goal? You can read it. You can read it here. So I am not repeating. The main goal is we need to create an environment that promotes responsible conduct, which can be trusted, which can be taken in good faith. I will be very specific now. For example, I would request the young researchers to focus in these slides. The author list and affiliations. This is the starting point, and it has many, many ethical issues involved. The first thing is, this is common sense. The author list, you are putting the names, they must be contributing. All of them in the author list must contribute in the paper. They should be part of the project. Special status are reserved for the first and corresponding author. The first author actually is the main contributor in the outcome of the research project, and the corresponding author is someone who looks after the project, and the ultimate responsibility of the paper actually is taken by the corresponding author. And the author list, it should be ordered according to contribution. A person who has contributed more should come first, then the other, and so on. In some journals, there are, now it is in almost all the journals, they demand explicit statement regarding contribution. We call it author credit statement. So you have to specifically mention this person has done this person has done this aspect, and all those things. And in high energy physics, there is a particular scheme that is alphabetic. So the surname, if it starts with A, will come first, but there will be that credit author statement where everyone's contribution should be explicitly mentioned. There are some confusion about the first author and the corresponding author. It is mostly, in most cases, the first author is someone who has contributed most in the paper, and the corresponding author is the research supervisor, but the first author can also be the corresponding author. There's no problem in that. Not always the supervisor is the corresponding author. I'm giving you an example. This is one of my papers during my PhD years. And in this paper, I am the first author, and I am also the corresponding author. My supervisor is Emeritus Professor Dr. John Robert Cooper of Cambridge University. He is the second author. There is no problem in this. If the first author takes all the responsibility of the paper, and he is the major contributor, and if the supervisor feels he deserves this position, he can be the first author and the corresponding author. There's no problem in it. The main point is credit has to be given where it is due. If the first author deserves to be the corresponding author, he can be the first author. No one should be there who is undeserving. About affiliation, the first affiliation should be where the main part of the work has been done. And there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 affiliations, depending on the contribution of the institutions. Here again, if the institution doesn't contribute anything to the project, in the affiliation, you shouldn't put that institution there. So the bottom line is, there is no place of charity. Credit must be given only when it is due. You do charity in your personal level. You help your students. If they have any question, you answer it. If they want to publish something, you help with their intellectual input. But you cannot do charity with research and research publication. There is no place of give and take kind of approach. And that is happening in Bangladesh very much. That is a very much serious case, and it is happening all the time. It has to be, if there is credit, you have to give that credit to that particular institution or to that particular person. Bangladesh এমনও হয় যে আমি একটা institution, it happens in Bangladesh, you are going to a certain institution to do some experimental work, and the director of that institution, who knows nothing about that project, will demand that his name should be in the author list? The answer is absolutely no. It cannot happen. If you do it, you are doing unethical practice and you are degrading the scientific integrity. And with these steps, we diminish the credibility and trustworthiness. Without those, you cannot do research. So in authorship, there are different kind of frauds. Ghost author. There is the author who has not done anything, not contributed anything. So somehow, due to some mechanism, due to some give and take policy, his name is there. There is guest author. Guest author is doing something, but not in terms of research. What he is doing, it happens. He is in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or in China, or in Malaysia, or whatever. He is saying, put my name in the author list, and I will cover the APC. Okay? He is doing nothing, but he will cover the APC so that you have a good chance of publishing your paper, and he is a guest who is doing something. There is gift author. Gift author is something different. If you look there, then you may feel that this is kind of guest author. No, it's not guest author. I have a paper. And if I include one master in the field in my author list, I can submit it in Nature or Science. Because Nature and Science, let's be fair, this is not a very just world. If you can include Stephen Hawking in your author list, the weight of the paper actually increases 100-fold just by that name. So that is a gift authorship. So you cannot have gift authorship. Sir, apnar namta ekটু দেন তাহলে অন্তত review তো হবে. But you cannot do that. You cannot do that. So you cannot have ghost author, guest author, or gift author. Then acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is quite important. We accommodate authors who are not deserving, but actually at the same time, we do not acknowledge the people who should be acknowledged. So who should be acknowledged? Acknowledge the people who have helped with the research indirectly, not directly involved with the research. Acknowledge the funding body, acknowledge the institutional help and facility. We have to do that. We have to do that. We have to be, these are kind of common sense. We know what is good practice. We have to do the good practice. So this is the acknowledgement part. Citation is another pitfall because we tend to self-cite very much. And this is kind of a human tendency. If I can promote my work through my work, why not doing it? But there are very serious ethical aspects there. Again, the policy should be give the credit where it is due. Because when I am doing work on, say, copper oxide superconductivity, which is my main research interest, I have published around 70, 80 papers on this subject matter. And I can easily cite my work to promote my work. I can do that. But I have to resist this temptation because in some cases, my work is actually very much deserving to be cited. But I'm saying about a particular general issue about which I have worked on. But about that general issue, the masters in the field, they have also worked. So what should I do? I should cite the most relevant and most credible source. There are chances of citing my work, but I have to be very judicious because again, the policy is the same. I have to give credit where it is due. There are ethical issues with submission. I have found it to be practiced. Actually, we should never submit a paper in more than one journal at a time. But this is done. This is done here. Because when you submit a paper to a journal, you make a commitment there that this paper will be considered there. Once it is accepted, end of the story. If it is rejected, you are entitled to submit it to another journal. But at the same time, you should not submit a particular paper to multiple of journals. This is not right. And second one is duplicate publication. You can find it because if you look at the local journals, and when I review the papers of those submissions, the first thing I do, I put the title in the search engine or abstract in the search engine, and see almost the same thing has been published a year before in another low-quality journal. So this is duplication. You cannot do that because, this is another very common practice. We are very much focused in increasing the number of publications. The focus should be in quality and meaningful research, but we are obsessed with numbers. I have this much publications. It doesn't really, if the society and if the academic atmosphere is right, nobody will care after you have published 100 papers. 100 and 200 doesn't make much difference. But what they will see the quality of your work, whether it's good for the discipline, and what are the citations, and who are citing your paper. I am citing my paper 15 times, a single paper. It doesn't really matter. But one very reputed scientist in the field is citing my work just once. That is more important. So these are very much matters of concern. So we cannot publish in multitude of journals at the same time. We cannot do duplicate research, and we should not do anything which are redundant, So now in the peer review. In the peer review, there is also ethical issue. As a researcher, we do research, and at the same time, we review the work of our peers. There is this case of conflict of interest. Peer review process has become kind of murky these days. We see often that someone emails me, I have submitted to that particular journal, and I have put forward your name as reviewer. I don't need to know this. There is no business of telling me that you have submitted there and I am a peer reviewer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, because what it does, it creates kind of network. যখন আমি সাবমিট করব তখন আপনি রিভিউ করবেন, আর যখন আপনি সাবমিট করবেন তখন আমি রিভিউ করব. The network will be mutually beneficial. The network is mutually beneficial, no doubt, but this is destructive for scientific community or research community. This cannot be done. And there is theft of idea. This is very hard to resist. For example, if you have submitted a very good work, and if the reviewer is not ethical, he will reject your work. But the idea you have put forward in your publication, he will use that idea and he will submit something by himself. So that is theft of idea. So these are the ethical issues with peer review, and particularly peer reviewers. And there are outright crimes. There is no other word for this. When you fabricate data, you are doing something criminal. When you plagiarize, you are doing something criminal. No excuse. And this does not need to be explained. If you do that, you are doing a great disservice to the research community and to yourself. This is criminal. And to be an ethical researcher and a good researcher, you must keep your research record throughout. আমি যে সমস্ত ল্যাবে রিসার্চ করেছি, ম্যাকডিয়ারমেন্ট ইনস্টিটিউট, SIUC, কেমব্রিজ, সমস্ত ভালো রিসার্চার, all the good researchers keeps a lab notebook and they keep every record for every day. If they put something in the furnace, they will say on the 8th of September at Ato AM, I have put this sample in the furnace at X degrees Celsius, at Y bar pressure, and all those things. Every record is kept. So this is a very good practice, and all the young researchers should follow this. When I returned from Cambridge, I brought around almost 50 kg of lab notebooks, and I couldn't brought them back via air, so they were shipped from Cambridge to our port at Chittagong. And all those lab reports are there because my 5-6 years work with date and time, everything is there. And you know, you should always remember that the buck stops at you. If there are questions around questions about your research, you are accountable and you have to answer. Nobody else can answer. So every record should be kept properly. What you have done, what you have found, you should know. Okay, journal selection, I think this is not that important here, but only point is you should never go for predatory publishers. This is a huge problem in the subcontinent and in some African countries. They go for these predatory journals where the peer review process is absolutely rubbish, and they publish, they don't even read what they're publishing, but they're publishing. And what we are doing, we're making our CV very heavy with those papers. Actually, this does not add any value to your CV. In the interview boards, when I see 20 publications or 50 publications, when I am in the board and I see those publications are mostly in predatory journals, if the number is 100, this person is given less credit than a student who has published just one work in a proper journal. So please don't do it. Because if you want to ruin your career, you can do that. But if you can really practice good research and want to do good work, you have to keep away from the predatory journals. These journals are trying to make research a matter of joke. It cannot happen. So there are many resources about research integrity and research ethics. If you are interested, then you can go through those. There is that Singapore statement on research integrity. And the general principle is honesty in all aspects of research, accountability in the conduct of research, professional courtesy and fairness in working with others, good mentorship or stewardship of research on behalf of others. So these are the responsibilities: integrity, adherence to regulations, research methods, research records, you have to keep it, research findings, you have to say what is actually happening. You shouldn't claim something which are not consistent with your research finding, all those things. As I said, these are common sense, but common sense are not really practiced in the research activities, particularly in countries like ours. So there is a very useful resource. This is called Committee on Publication Ethics. The web page is given here. Any student who is interested, he or she can look at that. And I think this is quite comprehensive. If you look here, then ethical issues on publication, you can find it out there. I have to finish because there is another meeting awaiting, so I will just say this. I think this statement was made yesterday as well. I'll read it. Many people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is character. And this has been said by Albert Einstein. You must have the character to uphold the ethical aspects. If you cannot do that, believe me, whatever you do, you will never be able to be a good researcher. So, there is this tendency of instant gratification. You are a graduate student, this is your first publication, you have a research supervisor. So there is this buzz, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it. But from the very first publication, if you are not careful about the ethical issues, your path will be very difficult, and you will not be able to really advance your research career. So I think the main responsibility is with the supervisors, but unfortunately we cannot rely on them all the time. You have to know your field. You have to know the practices in your field, and you have to be careful, because ultimately you have to take the responsibility. So be responsible and know about research ethics. It is such a vast issue. There are so many other things I have omitted. You have to learn by yourself. But in this speech, I have just tried to focus on a very few aspects so that you can realize what are the main themes in research ethics. So I will finish now. Good luck with your research. Thank you very much for your hearing. Thank you very much.
We'll have 5 minutes of question and answer session. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll reach for your question with the microphone. Thank you.
কি বলবো, অত্যন্ত প্রিভ্যালেন্ট প্র্যাকটিস হয়ে গেছে আর কি, যে একে দিল, তুমি একটা আমার এখানে নাম দাও, আমি তোমার পেপারে নাম দিব। আমার প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে যে এইটাকে আমরা ইথিক দিয়ে বলবো, কিন্তু আসলে আমরা সোশ্যালি কিভাবে এটাকে কন্ট্রোল করতে পারি, এইটা আসলে কি হতে পারে, এটা একটা প্রশ্ন। আর দ্বিতীয় আরেকটা প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে, ইথিক্স নিয়ে আমরা অনেক বললাম, এ ব্রিফ ইন্ট্রোডাকশন, আসলে রিসার্চ ইথিক্স এখন শিক্ষক হিসেবে যে আমরা পড়াচ্ছি, আমার মনে হয় আরেকটা লেকচার শোনার অপেক্ষায় আপনার কাছ থেকে, যে আমরা শিক্ষক হিসেবে কি ইথিক্সগুলো আমরা পালন করতে পারি। ধন্যবাদ স্যার।
All the ethical issues are social contract, social construct. সমাজের ভিতর থেকে ethical value বের হয়ে আসে। If the society is not concerned with ethical values, it will become extremely hard to implement ethical practice in research or in educational institutions. Because as I say, this is common sense. We are talking about ethical issues in research, but if you see deeper, then the issue is quite simple, but yet much more profound. The thing is, if you believe in justice, if you believe in truthfulness, then the problem is solved. As I said, credit must be given where it is due. At the same time, there is no place of charity in research. This is not charity. Some beggar is coming to me and I am giving him some money. It's not like this. So, আমরা সত্য বলবো কিনা এবং সুবিচার করব কিনা, প্রশ্নটা কিন্তু ওই জায়গায়। তো আপনার এটা আমি বলবো যে if there is good education, if there is an education and societal demand on truthfulness and in the sense of justice, then the problem is solved. If it is not there, then artificially imposing it in research or any kind of institutional activity will become very hard. So it has to be a holistic approach where the point of view of the society, the total education system addresses those issues. এখানেই আমাদের সমস্যাটা হয়। We talk about those things, but it's like, as we watch the elephant, someone is concerned with the tail, someone is with the trunk, someone is with the leg, but the total elephant is important. ওই হাতিটার ভিতরে যদি এথিক্যাল প্র্যাকটিস থাকে তাহলে এইখানে আলাদা করে এথিক্যাল প্র্যাকটিস নিয়ে আলাপের প্রয়োজনটা কমে যায় আর কি। এটা একটা দিক। আর একটা দিক আপনি যেটা বলেছেন সেটা হলো যে টিচারদের এথিক্স কী হচ্ছে, তো অফকোর্স দিস ইজ ইকুয়ালি ইম্পর্ট্যান্ট ইফ নট মোর। এই রিসার্চ এথিক্সের থেকেও শিক্ষক হিসাবে হোয়াট আর আওয়ার ডিউটিজ অ্যান্ড এথিক্যাল প্র্যাকটিস, হোয়াট ইজ এথিক্যাল প্র্যাকটিস, ইট হ্যাজ টু বি ডিসকাসড and we have to be open to the criticism and we have to be open to the change. এটা অবশ্যই হওয়া দরকার আর কি। Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I am Shakil Mia from University of Chittagong. I have two questions. First one, we know that AI is a stage of human civilization. My question is, how can we ensure the ethical use of AI in research? And second one, I'm a student of philosophy department. How can I apply scientific methodology in philosophical research? Dhanyabad.
Thank you. Yeah, he has touched on very, what should I say, very important aspect. I have said nothing about the use of AI. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But AI these days will contribute to the scientific research enormously. And in fact, if you go to the various archives, preprint archives, you will see a lot of papers on machine learning and AI-related applications in scientific research. This is overall very positive. The thing is, one thing I have to do, again, the general principle is very simple. You can use AI in your research. In fact, in 10 years, every one of us will use AI in our research. There will be no other research where AI has not been used in some form or other. The ethical issue is, again, if you just think common sense, credit must be given where it is due. In my research paper, if I have used artificial intelligence, I must specify this part till this is coming from artificial intelligence. I think, in a very general term, if you give the credit where AI should be credited, you should give that credit. And if you do that, then from my point of view, there will be no major ethical issue. But you cannot do that. You have taken everything from AI and you are saying, this is my idea. I have written this. All the formalism is coming from my brain. No, that would be unethical. So to me, this is one of the approach, but I'm sure with the wide use of the AI, these issues will be discussed more and more, and many other intricate facets will come up, and it will be another sub-discipline of ethical practice, how to integrate AI in the scientific research. The second question is about philosophical research. Actually, the scientific methodology and all the logical structure, it came from philosophy. যত রকমের যুক্তিতর্কের ব্যাপার আছে এবং পদ্ধতিগত ব্যাপারে যত রকমের ক্রিটিক আছে এবং সেটার উন্নয়নের যত রকমের আলাপ, it has philosophical ফাউন্ডেশন থেকে এগুলো চলে আসছে। কাজে এইটা ফিলোসফির রিসার্চের জন্য আমি বলবো দে আর অলরেডি ইন এ গুড পজিশন, because they know how to apply inductive logic, deductive logic, how to draw conclusion from a series of logical statements. So they are already well positioned. So for them, the research guideline is already in their subject. So এটা তারা শুরুতেই একটা বড় সুবিধার মধ্যে আছে আর কি। থ্যাংক ইউ। আমার মনে হয় শেষ করতে হয়। So I have to finish here. Thank you so much. Thank you, the organizer. Thanks.